Hello, this is my week 5 presentation that I'm giving on focus groups. Quick agenda. I'm going to go over the description of what a focus group is. I'm going to talk a little bit about when to use one, when it's appropriate to use one. How to use. There's a 6-step process with some sub-points to discuss. Go over a couple of alternatives to the focus groups. Talk about an application as it pertains to quality. Run through a brief summary, and finally some references. So what is a focus group? A focus group is defined in the text by rows it's used to obtain feedback on existing products or services or on proposed ideas from the point of view of the customer or stakeholders. Why use a focus group? Well, first of all, it allows for more creativity and open-ended answers than surveys. And it's not as time-consuming as interviews. It allows the participants to kind of play off each other's ideas, kind of bounce ideas back and forth. And it lets you observe people interacting with physical items, which you can't get from surveys. When should you use focus groups? You want to use focus groups to clarify and define customer needs, also to gain insights into the prioritization of needs, to test concepts and get some feedback. It might be used as pre-work for a survey or an interview to identify topics of critical interest to customers. And you might also use it as a follow-up to customer interviews as a way of verifying lessons or information learned. So it's a pretty versatile tool to be used in a lot of different places. Pros and cons of the focus group. In the pros column, we have collaborative problem solving. It is time effective and cost effective when compared to other tools. Places community members on equal footing. So if you have a group of folks that are involved in the focus group, some of them might be executives, everybody kind of has an equal voice in the room. And there's a flexible format, so you can use it for a lot of different types of things. Some downsides, can't provide the same kind of in-depth information as one-on-one conversations. It's a group setting. Some community members in the group may feel uncomfortable speaking up, so that's kind of a variable you have to deal with. And you could end up with a little bit of groupthink. If there's popular ideas, it'd be hard to get sometimes some critical thinking involved with the process. So how to use focus groups. I broke it down into 6 steps here. Got this straight out of the text. So the first step is to identify the number and target size of your focus groups. Time and cost will limit the number you can do. And the text had recommended a typical group has anywhere from 7 to 13 participants. In the second step, you want to identify your participants. Typical options include mixing representatives of different segments, or maybe you want to focus on a particular segment, or people who are known to have an interest in the same topic. The third step is you want to develop your questions. And to do that, it had suggested to do a pilot to test the ease of gathering and analyzing the data. So you want to make sure that you are open-ended, but you still want to stay focused. You want to make sure that a lot of your questions pertain to what you're trying to get at as far as information goes. The fourth step is to conduct the focus group. This can be more difficult than it appears. And if no one, for example, if no one in your organization has experience with focus groups, you might have to consider outside assistance. You want to make sure you're using the best possible tactics, questions, and tools for the time that you have. Step 5, after the focus group is over, you want to transcribe those customer comments. And that kind of leads into another part I'll discuss in a minute. You want to take that information and suggested using an infinity diagram. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And then the final step is select appropriate follow-up action. Like I said, create an affinity diagram of the selected customer statements to find themes in customer comments. And you want to use customer statements to develop product service requirements statements. All right, so 2 alternatives kind of popped up here, surveys and interviews. Surveys are just kind of a general definition. They're used to gather quantitative data across an entire segment on customer reactions to a product, service, or intangible. And then interviews, used to learn about specific customer point of view on service issues, product attributes, and performance measures. So similar in nature, but some aspects a little more time consuming, a little more costly. You definitely lose the collaborative ability if you go with these alternatives. All right, so for quality application, this is what I came up with. The PMBOK called out focus groups in a couple of places, but I found it in 5.2, which is the collect requirements section. And this is a process of determining, documenting, and managing stakeholder needs and requirements to meet objectives. And to my mind, this is the beginning of operational definitions, and this is also the beginning of the quality planning process. So this is where we're going to start to form that quality based on customer input. I pulled some sample focus questions that I found. These are just really generic, just to give an idea of kind of what you'd be looking at. Kind of some key things I got, just generalizations from looking at this. You want to make sure you're asking open-ended questions. You want to make sure they're not leading questions. And you really want to encourage conversation. The more you can sort of flesh out of the responses, the more information, the more value of the information you're going to have. And then the end result here is an affinity diagram. And what I had read on this one is what you want to try to do is lay all these pieces of information you get out. They had suggested color-coded sticky notes. And then you want to start to group them into different categories. And by doing that, you're going to be able to find more usable analysis, save yourself some time, maybe identify some overlap, things of that nature. So, conclusion on the topic here. Went over the definition and kind of the nuts and bolts of what the focus group are and why and when you would use it. Talked about how to use that 6-step process, a couple of alternatives, the survey, and of course the interviews. And then the quality application, it's a brainstorming technique essentially, group collaboration to kind of come up with some data that you can use. And the tool that it has suggested as the output for this is the affinity diagram. So thanks for taking a look, and just a list of my resources. Thank you very much.